Welcome to Conversations. I'm Muqtada Khan, your host, and today I want to talk to you about the latest developments in the Iran war and the latest fatwa from President Donald Trump. Uh, I'm beginning to pity Trump. He's become a pathetic figure. He started a war that was clearly a war of choice on his part. It was a war that most Americans would have advised him against starting. Nobody really wanted him to start the war. His military and his generals call it farcical of him to even attempt such a war. American intelligence told him that there was no imminent threat from Iran to the United States. Donald Trump himself bragged that in June of 2025, using Operation Midnight Hammer, the United States had obliterated Iran's nuclear program. And so to come back just a few months later, because Netanyahu wanted a war with Iran, sensing that Iran was very, very weak, and so he could end up destroying another country in the Middle East. Netanyahu basically talked Donald Trump into going into this war. So it was not a war of his. It is a war of choice because it was not necessary at all. But it was not really Donald Trump's choice. He has become a slave to Netanyahu. It looks like Netanyahu literally has colonized his mind and his soul and owns him. So he's unable to say no to Netanyahu no matter what, no matter how many years he campaigned against wars of intervention, unnecessary wars, unending wars, regime change wars. He thought all of these were antithetical to America's national interests. And so he ran on this campaign, and then the moment he becomes president, he realizes that the position of the American president is subordinate to Israel. So America does not have its own interests. Israeli national interests are America's national interests. Remember, Joe Biden, the previous president, flew all the way to Saudi Arabia to ensure that Israel had got the rights to fly over Saudi Arabia. That's the job of the American president. To work hard to fulfill every little wish of Israel, and so did Donald Trump. Now he can't get out of it. His own political future is impacted by that. If oil prices continue to stay high as they are, it's about $113 per oil, the Brent crude oil at the moment, which means that in many places, I was talking to people today in Seattle and in Chicago, the price of oil at the pump is now above $6. And it was around $3 for some of these states. In Delaware, it was $2.93. Now it's $4.21 here. So the price has gone up by 25 to 35% in across the United States, and that is a huge expense, especially for middle class and working class Americans. Plus, given that we are about to, the schools will be over soon and we will be in summer, this is the driving season in America. And so the cost of driving is going to perhaps even impact domestic tourism, and then it'll impact, I guess, hospitality industry, etc. So basically, it's a disaster chosen by Americans. The American president chose to perpetrate a disaster on the American economy to advance Israel's hegemonic and religious interests in the Middle East. That is the only way in which we can describe this. So at this moment, nearly 65 days since the war started, Donald Trump promised that this would be over in 3 to 4 weeks. Iran will surrender completely. It will collapse. Then we will have a regime change. We will go to Tehran and install a clown there who will say that the sole purpose of Iran and the sole purpose of his government's existence is to advance Israeli interests. That clown's name is Raza Pahlavi, who keeps saying the first thing he will do as soon as he becomes king of Iran is to recognize Israel. Amazing. That is what a war needs to be fought for. That is why thousands of people need to die so that a country can recognize Israel. And that is what Raza Pahlavi keeps telling his stupid followers. And they want him. They want him. There are thousands of Iranian Americans who want him as king of Iran. So anyway, So this another clown, that is Donald Trump, wants to install a clown there. All of these are Israel firsters, and that is not happening. He's so frustrated. So the ceasefire negotiations have now been going on for clearly 5 weeks. We have a default ceasefire, which has been violated primarily by Donald Trump by a couple of escalations, and one of that escalations was blockading of Hormuz, which resulted in Iran also blockading the Strait of Hormuz. So neither can ships go out, neither can ships come in. This hurts all the Middle Eastern countries, including the Iranian economy. Before the US imposed its blockade on the Strait of Hormuz, the Iranians were controlling the traffic out of Hormuz. They were preventing ships from any of the other countries from going to any other country. The only ships they were allowing were their own ships taking oil primarily to China. So the Strait of Hormuz was not entirely stopped by the Iranians. They were allowing a limited amount of traffic. And so the US blockaded it, and now it hurts even the Chinese as well as the Iranian economies. So in that sense, there's a double blockade on the Strait of Hormuz that hurts all the Middle Eastern Gulf countries and also hurts the Iranian economy going forward. But the negotiations are going back and forth and the back and forth. The Iranians seem to have all the time in the world, and Donald Trump has no time at all. He's frustrated. He wants things to be resolved easily. He has been playing the stock market and is trying to influence the markets. So he has made this latest announcement. I'm going to share this tweet. He's announced a new project starting tomorrow morning called Operation Project Freedom. And clearly this is designed to try and bring down the price of oil and also basically provide some kind of a boost to the stock market. What is happening in the past few days is that oil prices and stock markets have now established an inverse relationship, which means that when the stock prices, when the oil prices go up, the stock prices go down, and the stock prices go up when the oil prices go down. So he's trying to bring the price of oil down by raising this and boosting the economy. And he thinks that by forcibly opening the Strait of Hormuz, he might be able to make that achievement by basically. But this is what he's achieved is not going to impact the supply of oil. All right, so let's go through what he's actually proposing. So President Trump says countries from all over the world, almost all of which are not involved in the Middle Eastern dispute going on so visibly and violently for all to see, well, visibly means that, have asked the United States if he could help free up their ships, which are locked up in the Strait of Hormuz on something which they have absolutely nothing to do with. My God, this sentence doesn't end at all. They are merely neutral and innocent bystanders. So basically he's saying, he's referring to about 2,000 ships that have been stranded in the Strait of Hormuz. They are running out of supplies. There are about, if I'm not mistaken, 20,000 seafarers who are on those ships. And they are all homesick. They've been there. They're running out of supplies. Maybe they're running out of even water to drink, etc. So it's becoming a humanitarian crisis with those people in the ships. What I don't understand is why don't they go back to the ports in the Gulf and get off those ships? Maybe there's not enough place in the harbors in the Gulf to park all these thousands and thousands of ships. Apparently there are 2,000 of them stuck inside the Strait of Hormuz. Anyway, so Donald Trump is saying that these are stuck there. It's not their fault. Of course it is not their fault. It's your fault. You started this war, Mr. Trump, to protect Israel and to establish its hegemony in the Middle East. Don't ever forget that. You can talk as much as you like about Iran's, whatever Iran has done in 47 years. That was not the reason why you went for war. You don't get to keep changing your objectives every day. Okay? You said very clearly that the only purpose you went there is to make sure that Iran cannot threaten Israel with its nuclear weapons program. That was the goal, remember? And then to establish a regime change. If you can't, I refer to you to your own tweets. Just go back and take a look at them. Anyway, then look at this. The next sentence is again very interesting. He says that these ships from areas of the world that are not in any way involved, which is currently taking place. I have told my representatives to inform them that we will use best efforts to get their ships and crews safely out of the strait. In all cases, they said they will not be returning until the area becomes safe for navigation and everything else. So the United States is now going to escort these ships safely out of the Strait of Hormuz. This process, Project Freedom, will begin Monday morning, Middle East time, which means it should start it's probably 6 a.m. there, so it should be starting now. I'm fully aware that my representatives are having very positive discussions with the country of Iran, and that these discussions could lead to something very positive for all. Well, we will see. So far, Iran has rejected the U.S. proposal and made a counter proposal with 14 points to it, and the U.S. has rejected that. And so they're just going back and forth, and I think the Iranians are pretty happy to do this endlessly, especially if they are able to find land routes to get around the Strait of Hormuz themselves. There's a lot of discussion that the Iranians are now sending oil by train to China. So if they can establish a land route through Central Asia to China, so they can send oil to China, then the Strait of Hormuz can stay closed. I heard that even the Iraqis are trying to find land routes. Ultimately, one thing that might happen in the long run is Iran is eliminating its only source of leverage, which is eventually most countries in the region are going to find ways to get around the Strait of Hormuz. And then maybe 10, 15, 20 years down the line, if there's another war between Israel and Iran, or US and Israel and Iran, then the Strait of Hormuz might not have that strategic relevance that it has at this moment. Right now, it allows 20 to 25% of energy supplies of the world. And I'm sure all of the countries in the region are going to invest into finding an alternative to the Strait of Hormuz, as the Saudis have done by building a pipeline that runs across their country to Red Sea. And then also the UAE also has found a way, a land route, a pipeline that takes it away beyond the Strait of Hormuz. So it's quite possible that in the next few years, many countries, Iraq, Kuwait, all of these are going to invest in some kind of alternative routes to this. And meanwhile, many of the users are also going to think very aggressively and also invest very heavily into what you can clearly say will be renewable energy and alternative sources of power, thereby reducing their dependency on Gulf oil. So in the long run, this abuse or use, whatever you may call of Iran's use of the Strait of Hormuz as a weapon of war, will diminish its own relevance. But anyway, Donald Trump then ends up this whole discussion. He suggests somehow that Iran is going to cooperate in this project. So, for example, he says he mentions that this is a humanitarian gesture on behalf of the United States, Middle East countries, and Iran, but in particular the country of Iran. So he actually highlights the fact that even Iran is so. Have they negotiated this with Iran, or they're simply assuming it? It might be quite a disaster if the very first ship that tries to move, Iran shoots it down or damages it in some way, and that could create a situation which will then end the ceasefire. Donald Trump ends this by saying, if in any way this humanitarian process is interfered with, that interference will unfortunately have to be dealt with forcefully. Thank you for your attention to this matter. So he ends this whole chatter of humanitarianism with a threat of war once again. So he's saying that if Iran prevents this, then it will be dealt with indirectly. Iran cannot allow these ships to go. They are a kind of a hostage that Iran has taken about the world economy. And if they allow this to happen, then the next thing that Trump will do is he will start using the same methods and the same security arrangement that he's made for these ships, for newer ships to come and send oil, etc. Plus, there's another question that he has not answered in that post is, look, some of these ships are loaded with oil. So what about their, I mean, it's fine, you're allowing the people to go for humanitarian reasons, but why will you allow millions and millions of barrels of oil to go through? What is humanitarian about that? So why not the United States send its helicopters to pick the crew from all their ships? Let the ships lie there in the Strait of Hormuz. Just airlift the seafarers from those boats. Turn the engines off, turn the lights off, turn the air conditioners off. Don't forget to turn the TV off. Get on a chopper and fly out. And when the war ends, they can come back and they can collect their ships. Anyway, so this is what is the latest thing that Donald Trump has done. I think the Iranians are just going to sit there pretty and watch and let this whole thing brew. They have made it very clear that they are going to make no compromises on the nuclear enrichment rights that they claim are their sovereign rights, and they are going to make no compromises on the ballistic missile program, which they feel is necessary given the fact that they are randomly attacked illegally by random countries in the Middle East and other regions. So what will Donald Trump get from Iran? They'll only open the Strait of Hormuz, which was already open before the war. So I think at the end of this whole thing, Trump might just say, oh, we finally opened the Strait of Hormuz. See how I ended another war. Now I should get a Nobel Prize. Of course, even his followers, the 35% people who approve his various policies, fortunately for him, are so dumb and so stupid and so moronic and so idiotic and so brainless that they will buy that rubbish too, not recognizing the fact that he started this war. And then he's going to ultimately take credit for ending this war. And it is quite possible that Iran may come out strategically stronger at the end of this war than it was before the beginning of this war. Anyway, thank you for watching Conversations. I will keep you posted on the latest developments as we go along. And I have a very, very interesting interview with the former Indian ambassador to UAE, Oman, and Saudi Arabia. Ambassador Talmiz Ahmed, who was India's ambassador in all three countries. There's nobody who knows the Gulf better than him. And so I had a very, very interesting conversation with him about the impact of OPEC's withdrawal from the Gulf. And do take a look at it. And it's very thoughtful, so please don't miss it. So anyway, if you've not subscribed to the channel, please subscribe to the channel, like this video, press the bell icon, and don't forget to share this with your socio-political network. For those who are watching in India, I want to let you know that the channel that you're watching me on in India, it's their first birthday. It's 1 year old now, and I want to gratefully thank you all for your support. And I went from 0 to 87,000 subscriptions in 1 year, and that's just 87,065 subscriptions in 1 year, and that's thanks to all of you who continue to support and engage with Conversations. For those of you who are watching on my global channel, thank you very much. We have also crossed 200,000 subscriptions on that channel. The content is the same. One is blocked in India, one is not. So take care, everybody. Good night. Bye.